Did you know Finland continues to rank as the happiest country in the world? Meanwhile, the United States ranks all the way down at 15. But that doesn't mean that we don't have happy places within the US. How is happiness determined? What makes Finland so happy? Some of the factors that are taken into consideration are income security, high social support, a sense of community, education, freedom to make decisions, safety, and low levels of corruption. Sounds like plenty of places in the US should make this list. In this video, we will look at the happiest places in America. Stay tuned to the end for some of the grumpiest and unhappiest places as well. See if you live in one of the happiest or unhappiest places in the 15th happiest country on Earth. Number 10 is Bismarck, North Dakota. This understated state capital is home to 73,600 residents and one building that reaches 21 stories, the tallest building in Bismarck. 94.6% of residents have graduated high school, which is significantly higher than the national average and slightly higher than the state average. Other things that rank this city on the list are quality of life, including the state's air quality, pollution, voter participation, and social support. North Dakota was also ranked as the drunkest state in America, which some may spin in a bad way, but some could also argue that Bismarck knows how to have a good time. The city gets all 4 seasons, so if you aren't happy with one, just wait 3 months. Health is also an important factor when determining a city's happiness index, and Bismarck ranks high in this category as well. It has low rates of depression and people report getting good sleep. That may sound silly, but we all know how cranky someone can be when they don't get their REM sleep. Finally, its sense of community is the number one thing that lands Bismarck on the list of happiest places. Number 9 is Burlington, Vermont. It sits in the northwest corner of the state and has a population of 44,700 people. The city is home to famed ice cream company Ben & Jerry's, so that alone should be enough to make someone happy. Burlington also ranked number 1 in fewest hours worked and extremely high in adequate sleep rate. The state of Vermont ranks well when it comes to government corruption, with it being an uncommon occurrence. Burlington has a vibrant nightlife and culinary scene and boasts scenic drives in the fall featuring the famous New England foliage. Winters can be a bit harsh, but the rest of the year is some of the most appealing in the country. Vermont is an incredibly safe state, ranking as the 4th safest state in the country. Vermont has its roots back in colonial America in the 1700s, but has been home to indigenous people for thousands of years, with the Abenaki having been in the region for 12,000. Their cultural influence helps make Burlington number 9 on this list. Number 8 is Sioux Falls, South Dakota. This takes us back to the Dakotas, which routinely rank high on desirable places to live in the US. Sioux Falls is located in the eastern part of the state and has a population of about 193,000 people. The city has an income inequality rate that is much better than the national average. This lack of disparity contributes to the residents' happiness, as there isn't a substantial gap between the highest and lowest income earners. The percentage of people living below the poverty line is below the national average as well, so income security is a factor leading to its happiness. Sioux Falls has stunning nature attractions like the waterfalls that give the city its namesake. The city has a low cost of living, and the city is a welcoming place, hosting numerous community events and festivals throughout the year, which fosters a strong sense of belonging. Sioux Falls is a big enough city to have all the amenities people would want when choosing a place to live, but isn't so big that it loses its sense of community. Number 7 is Alexandria, Virginia. Alexandria, a city in its own right, is also considered a suburb of Washington, D.C. and has a population of 159,000. The city's proximity to D.C. means there is no shortage of things to do, and it boasts infrastructure and public transportation that improves the quality of life. Money Magazine ranked Alexandria as a top place to live based on economic opportunities, quality of life, diversity, and where the best futures lie. The city ranks incredibly high when it comes to economic opportunities, which makes sense given its size, its proximity to the nation's capital, as well as proximity to other mid-sized cities in the DC metro area. Though the crime rate is higher than other cities and towns in the state, the crime rate is notably lower than other cities in the US of similar size. In terms of education, the city is making huge strides, particularly since the pandemic. In 2021, the city saw its highest graduation rate of all time. Their on-time high school graduation rate jumped from 82% in 2020 to 91% in 2021, and a huge decrease in the overall student dropout rate from 14% in 2020 to only 5% in 2021. This, no doubt, contributes to the city's overall happiness. In terms of corruption, I doubt they can ever escape the reputation of politicians in DC, so it'll have to accept that knock to their happiness index. Number 6 is Boise, Idaho. The state is overall a happy place, and who wouldn't be with an endless supply of potatoes? Boise, the state capital, has a population of 236,000. It blends the perfect mix of the great outdoors juxtaposed alongside urban amenities. Though dangerous by Idaho standards, the city is one of the safest in the US. Its murder rate is so low, it is actually 0 out of every 100,000 people. In 2022, there were 3 murders in the city. 3. It's easy to be happy when you can live day to day with a sense of safety and security. 95.2% of residents have graduated high school, quite a bit higher than the national average. Those living below the poverty line are perfectly on par with the national average, and the median household income is slightly lower than the national average, but the cost of living is low, so despite this, residents can still live comfortably. Boise's unemployment rate is one of the lowest of any US metro area, and its potential for prosperity is also one of the highest. The only thing doing as well as its economic opportunities are its entertainment options. Arts lovers can take a walk through Freak Alley, an open-air art gallery, check out the Boise Art Museum, and attend Boise State University's Gene Harris Jazz Festival. With so much going for it, it's no wonder that Boise landed on this list. Number 5 is Boulder, Colorado. Boulder is about 40 minutes northwest of Denver and has a population of 108,000. It's hard to imagine not being happy when you live in such a scenic city with the Rocky Mountains as your backdrop. The city has a violent crime rate significantly lower than the national average, so residents feel safe. Despite a slight dip in the on-time graduation rate, Boulder still outpaces the rest of the state and graduates students at a much higher rate than the national average. The city prides itself on its sense of community, particularly after the pandemic and a series of destructive wildfires. Residents have stated that they feel closer to and more connected to their community after the series of devastating events. There is also plenty to do in Boulder. The presence of the University of Colorado Boulder ensures that there's enough craft beers to keep a smile on anyone's face. Fresh food, farmers markets, ski slopes, hiking, biking through pristine wilderness, and clear creeks only add to the laid-back lifestyle of residents that call Boulder home. Number 4 is Salt Lake City, Utah. Perhaps it's the Mormons. Perhaps it's the mountains. Maybe it's the low crime rate or presence of the university. Maybe it's all of the above. Utah itself has routinely ranked as one of the happiest states in America, so it's no surprise that its capital finds its way on this list. One of the criteria that is cited as contributing most to happiness is a sense of community and high social support. Because the city is over 50% Mormon, there is a tight-knit community that is built in for those who identify with the church. Some of the city's most beautiful buildings are part of the LDS Temple complex. In terms of education, 91.1% of residents have at least a high school diploma, while 50% also have a college degree. This is well above the national average. For those who don't identify with the Mormon Church, there are other tight-knit groups, including a vibrant LGBTQ community and annual Pride Festival. The University of Utah keeps the city young and ambitious, and even has an impressive gymnastics team with former Olympians that are now competing for the college. There's no shortage of things to do in Salt Lake City, particularly if you enjoy the outdoors. Antelope Island in the Great Salt Lake offers a window into local wildlife. You're only an hour from Park City, one of America's best ski resorts, and there's whitewater rafting, hiking, biking, and paragliding, to name a few. It's no wonder that Salt Lake City is a city with a smile. Number 3 is Juneau, Alaska. Cut off from the rest of the country, Juneau, with a population of just 32,000, makes it the 6th smallest capital city. It's located in the Gastineau Channel and the Alaskan Panhandle in the southern part of the state, and is the only national capital not accessible by road. And I know what you're thinking. Honolulu is not connected to the rest of the country by road, but it is still connected to the entire island of Oahu. Juneau is its own isolated pocket of happiness. Most people who have visited Juneau come via cruise ship. The cruise season livens up the marina and offers outsiders a glimpse into one of the most beautiful places in the world. Juneau doesn't score too well when it comes to crime and education, but scores incredibly high when it comes to a sense of community and income security. The median household income is well above the national average, and the city's relative isolation helps foster a deep sense of community. This sense of belonging goes far beyond the current residents. It's believed that indigenous peoples have inhabited Southeast Alaska for more than 10,000 years. It is the traditional homeland of 3 distinct ethnicities: Tlingit, Haida, and Tsimshian. This deep connection to its residents' ancestral land has earned Juneau a spot on this list. Number 2 is Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Portsmouth is a city of 22,000, situated just an hour north of Boston, tucked away between the border of Maine and the Atlantic Ocean. This is no small accomplishment, given that New Hampshire has only 18 miles of coastline. Portsmouth really shines when it comes to education. Their public school districts have a student-to-teacher ratio of only 1 to 12 and have a graduation rate of 96%, which is the highest on this list so far. It's hard not to be happy in a city that offers quaint New England towns, fall foliage unmatched by any other part of the country, a rugged coastline, lighthouses, and colonial architecture that is a remembrance of times gone by. Most residents in the city own their own home, and the median household income is well above the national average. This is offset a bit by the higher cost of living in the Northeast, but nonetheless, residents feel a sense of security, with only 6% of the city living below the poverty line, which is only half of the national average. Before we get to number 1, let's look at some of the least happy places to live in the US. The cities with the biggest grumpy pants are Detroit, which ranks the lowest, followed by Cleveland, Ohio, Shreveport, Louisiana, and Huntington, West Virginia. Only 71% of students graduate high school in Detroit, and Shreveport has a staggering 25% of its residents living below the poverty line. Cleveland is plagued by urban blight nestled in the Rust Belt, and Huntington is in West Virginia, which has the highest opioid addiction and mortality rate. That doesn't mean that residents aren't happy. Sometimes being the underdog is the very thing that fosters a sense of community and perseverance, so hopefully these cities can make a comeback. And now for number 1. This takes us to an unexpected state for anyone who's been watching the news lately. Number 1 is Sunnyvale, California. California is known for its high taxes, insane cost of living, high crime, homelessness, and broken educational systems. But the state is huge, and not everything is San Francisco and Los Angeles. Sunnyvale is a suburb of San Jose located in Santa Clara County and has a population of 156,000. The city ranked as the happiest city in the US in several different surveys, so it's not a one-off thing. The first marker of happiness is its climate. It has year-round mild weather and few residents complain. Its proximity to San Jose and San Francisco mean that residents have big city amenities and culture without the big city crime and cost. Sunnyvale boasts a wealth of diversity and high educational standards. According to the US Census Bureau, the city is 48% Asian, 28.9% white, and 16.8% Hispanic or Latino. The city's median household income is $161,670, double that of the national average, and 93% have graduated high school. One of the other factors is a feeling of freedom and lack of corruption. One of Sunnyvale's most unique governmental features is that the city charter requires it to have a 10-year balanced budget and a 20-year plan. That's a far cry from some of the unhappiest cities who have declared bankruptcy.